She couldn't remember the last time she disappointed them, not because she was naturally perfect, but because disappointment, even once, felt like the end of the world. This is the story of how one American family created their golden child, and how that child spent the next 30 years trying to remember who she was before the gold. In the suburbs of Connecticut, 1985, the Harrington family looked perfect from the outside. Big house, successful father, stay-at-home mother, two beautiful children. But inside that perfect house, something dark was happening. Something that would shape both children in ways no one could predict. If you've ever felt the crushing weight of being someone's dream instead of your own person, hit subscribe. Drop a like. Comment below. It helps YouTube show this to others who need to understand. Now let's go deeper. The Harringtons had a problem they never talked about openly. James Harrington, the father, had been a promising law student, top of his class. Everyone said he'd make a partner before 40. But something happened. A failed case. A public humiliation. A career that plateaued before it ever peaked. And Susan Harrington, the mother, had been a gifted pianist. Scholarships. Competitions. A future in performance everyone could see coming. Until she got pregnant at 22 and set aside her dreams for diapers and domesticity. Neither of them spoke about these losses. Not directly, but the disappointment lived in their house like a third presence. Quiet, heavy, waiting for a chance at redemption. And then Emily was born, their first child, a daughter with her mother's musical ear and her father's sharp mind. A blank canvas onto which two wounded people could paint their second chance. But here's what they didn't understand. What most parents who create golden children don't understand. You can't heal your wounds through your child. You can only transfer them. Emily learned to read her parents' faces before she learned to read books. She knew which behaviors brought smiles and which brought that subtle tightening around her mother's eyes, that slight disappointment in her father's voice. So she adjusted, adapted, became the child they needed her to be. At 4, she started piano lessons, not because she asked, but because her mother casually mentioned how wonderful it would be if Emily shared her gift. And Emily, desperate for that light in her mother's eyes, said yes. At 6, she brought home straight A's, and her father's face transformed. Pride, joy, the kind of attention Emily craved like oxygen. So she kept bringing them, again and again, because nothing felt better than making him proud. This is how golden children are created. Not through one moment, but through 1,000 small exchanges where love feels conditional, where approval depends on performance, where being yourself isn't quite enough. Psychologist Alice Miller wrote about this in her groundbreaking work on narcissistic parenting. She described how parents with unmet emotional needs unconsciously use their children to fulfill those needs. The child becomes what she called the drama of the gifted child. Talented, accomplished, praised, but hollow, because they're not developing their own identity. They're performing someone else's script. By the time Emily was 10, she was exceptional, top of her class, concert pianist, perfect daughter. Everyone said the Harringtons must be so proud, and they were. They showed her off like a trophy. Look at what we created. Look at how we succeeded. But no one asked Emily what she wanted, what she dreamed about, what scared her. Because Emily's job wasn't to want things. It was to be things. To be proof that her parents weren't failures. That their sacrifices meant something. That their family was special. Then her brother was born. Michael, 6 years younger. And from the moment he arrived, the family dynamic shifted in ways no one acknowledged, but everyone felt. Emily remained the golden child. The success story. The one who could do no wrong. But Michael became something else. The problem, the difficult one, the child who somehow carried all the family's dysfunction while Emily carried all the hope. Family systems theorist Murray Bowen would recognize this pattern immediately. He called it triangulation. When a family can't face its own issues, it splits those issues between two people. One becomes the repository of all that's good. One becomes the repository of all that's bad. Neither role is real. Both are projections. But the children don't know that. They just know their place, and they play their part. Emily excelled. Michael struggled. Emily pleased. Michael rebelled. Emily was praised. Michael was criticized. And both children learned the same lesson. Love in this family is conditional. It depends on the role you play. What made this particularly painful was that Emily loved her brother, but she couldn't help him, because helping him would mean questioning the system. And questioning the system would threaten her position, would risk the approval she'd worked so hard to maintain. So she stayed silent, kept achieving, kept performing, while watching her brother drown in the shadows she cast. This is the hidden cost of being the golden child. Not just what it does to you, but what it does to your relationships. The guilt, the complicity, the knowledge that your success exists in contrast to someone else's failure. By the time Emily was 16, she was exhausted. Straight A's weren't enough anymore. She needed to be valedictorian. Playing piano wasn't enough. She needed to win competitions. Being good wasn't enough. She needed to be exceptional. Always. Forever. Because she'd learned something terrifying. The moment she stopped achieving, the love might stop too. Neuropsychologists studying children in high-pressure environments have found something disturbing. Their brains develop differently. The amygdala, the fear center, becomes hyperactive. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for authentic decision-making, shows reduced activity. They're literally wired for anxiety and performance rather than genuine self-expression. Emily's brain had been shaped by conditional love, and her body kept the score. She developed insomnia, couldn't eat before performances, had panic attacks she never told anyone about, because admitting struggle would mean admitting imperfection, and imperfection wasn't allowed. Not for the golden child. Her mother noticed the weight loss, but framed it as discipline. Her father noticed the anxiety, but called it healthy ambition. Neither saw the girl beneath the gold slowly disappearing. And Emily didn't know how to tell them, because she'd spent her entire life reading their needs and fulfilling them. She'd never learned to identify her own needs, let alone voice them. This is what psychologist Donald Winnicott meant by the false self. An adaptive persona created to gain acceptance. It performs. It achieves. It makes others happy. But it's not real. And the real self, the true self, gets buried deeper and deeper until you forget it exists. Emily got into Yale, her father's alma mater. The moment the acceptance letter arrived, her father cried. Actually cried. And Emily felt something break inside her. Not from joy, but from pressure. Because now she couldn't fail. Now she had to be perfect at Yale too. Had to prove the acceptance wasn't a mistake. Had to keep being golden. She wanted to take a gap year. Travel. Figure out who she was outside of achievement. But she couldn't say that, because that would disappoint them, and disappointing them felt like death. So she went, performed excellently, made Dean's List, joined the right clubs, dated the right people, looked perfect from the outside, and felt nothing on the inside. This is the paradox of golden child syndrome. You achieve everything you're supposed to want, and it means nothing, because it was never really your dream. It was theirs. You're just the one living it. Research on identity formation shows that adolescence and young adulthood are critical periods for developing an authentic self. But golden children often skip this phase entirely. They move from performing for parents to performing for professors to performing for employers. The stage changes, but the script stays the same. Emily graduated with honors, got a prestigious job at a law firm, made her father proud once again, moved to Manhattan, built the life that looked successful from every angle. And at 25, alone in her expensive apartment, she looked in the mirror and didn't recognize herself. Who was she without the achievements? Without the approval? Without the constant performance? She didn't know, because she'd never been allowed to find out. This moment, psychologists call it an identity crisis, is common among adult golden children. It usually hits in the mid-20s or early 30s, when external validation stops providing relief, when you realize you've built someone else's dream life, when the emptiness becomes too loud to ignore. For Emily, it started with small rebellions. skipping a work event she was supposed to attend, taking a pottery class she didn't tell her parents about, saying no to Sunday dinner for the first time in her life. Each small act of self-assertion felt terrifying, like she was betraying everything, but also necessary, like she was finally starting to breathe. Her parents noticed. They called more, asked if everything was okay, expressed concern that she seemed different, less focused, less driven, and beneath their concern was something else. Fear. Fear that their golden child was tarnishing. This is when the system pushes back hardest. When the golden child starts to individuate, the family experiences it as a threat. Because they've built their identity around this child's success, they need the golden child to keep playing the role. Emily started therapy, not because something was wrong with her, but because everything was. She'd spent 25 years being perfect and had no idea who she actually was. Her therapist asked her simple questions that felt impossible to answer. What do you want? What makes you happy? What would you do if you knew no one would judge you? Emily cried for weeks because she didn't have answers. She'd never developed the ability to know what she wanted. She'd only learned to know what others wanted from her. This is the therapeutic work of healing from golden child syndrome. Learning to identify your own desires, your own feelings, your own needs. Things most people develop naturally, but golden children have to learn consciously, painfully, in adulthood. Carl Jung called this process individuation, becoming separate, whole, your own person rather than an extension of someone else's needs. For golden children, individuation isn't just psychological development. It's an act of rebellion against everything they were taught. Emily started small. She told her mother she didn't like piano anymore, that she'd only played to make her happy. Her mother was devastated, felt betrayed, couldn't understand how Emily could throw away such a gift. But Emily wasn't throwing away a gift. She was finally admitting it was never hers to begin with. She told her father she hated law, that she'd only pursued it because it mattered to him. He was confused, angry, insisted she was just stressed, that she'd feel differently after a vacation. But she didn't. She quit her job, moved to a smaller apartment, started writing, something she'd never told anyone she wanted to do because it seemed impractical, not golden enough. Her parents stopped calling as often. When they did talk, conversations felt strained. They didn't know how to relate to this version of Emily, the one who wasn't achieving, who wasn't making them proud, who was just being. This is the grief of recovering from golden child syndrome. You don't just lose the false self. You often lose the relationship that false self was designed to maintain. Because some parents can't love the real you. They can only love the projection they created. Emily grieved for the relationship she'd wanted with her parents but never had. For the childhood spent performing instead of playing. For the years she'd lost being someone else. But she also felt something new. Freedom, space, the ability to make choices based on what she wanted rather than what would make others proud. She reached out to her brother, Michael, the scapegoat she'd ignored while playing the golden child. She apologized for not seeing his struggle, for benefiting from a system that hurt him, for staying silent when she should have spoken. Michael was angry at first. Years of resentment don't dissolve with one conversation. But slowly, carefully, they built something new. Not the roles they'd been assigned, but a real relationship between two people who survived the same toxic system and were both trying to heal. This reconciliation, when it happens, is powerful because it breaks the family pattern. It says, we don't have to keep playing these roles. We can choose differently. Not all golden children and scapegoats find their way to each other. Sometimes the wounds are too deep. Sometimes the scapegoat can't forgive. Sometimes the golden child can't face their complicity. And that's okay. Both have the right to heal in whatever way serves them. But for Emily and Michael, healing together became part of healing individually. They could talk about their childhood honestly, could acknowledge how both were harmed, could support each other in building lives that belonged to them. 3 years into her healing journey, Emily is still learning who she is. She writes now, not for publication or recognition, just for herself. She's learning to rest without guilt, to fail without shame, to be ordinary without feeling worthless. She still struggles with perfectionism, with the need for external validation, with anxiety when she's not achieving. These patterns don't disappear. They were formed when her brain was developing. Their neural pathways carved deep. But now she notices them, can name them, can choose differently even when it's uncomfortable. That's the work of recovery. Not becoming perfect at healing, just becoming conscious. Her relationship with her parents is complicated. They still don't fully understand why she changed, why she threw away such a promising future, why she seems less ambitious now. Emily has tried to explain, has tried to help them see how their needs shaped her, but they can't hear it. To hear it would mean acknowledging their role, and that's too painful. So Emily has accepted something difficult but necessary. She can't heal her parents. She can't make them see. She can only choose herself. Set boundaries. Limit contact when it's harmful. Show up when it's possible. And let go of the fantasy that they'll one day look at her and say, "We're sorry. We see you. We love you for who you are, not what you achieve." That fantasy, as beautiful as it is, keeps you trapped, waiting for permission to be yourself from the very people who needed you not to be. Emily doesn't wait anymore. She gives herself permission, every day, in small ways, to want what she wants, to feel what she feels, to be imperfect and still worthy. This is what recovering from golden child syndrome looks like. Not a dramatic transformation, not a moment of enlightenment, but a slow, often painful, always worthwhile journey back to yourself. Back to the person you were before you learned love was conditional, before you learned your worth depended on achievement, before you learned to be golden instead of real. That person, your true self, has been waiting, beneath the performance, beneath the pressure, beneath the gold that was never yours to carry. And the moment you finally set it down, the moment you finally say, "I can't carry this anymore," something extraordinary happens. You don't fall apart. You fall together, into yourself, into truth, into the terrifying but liberating reality that you are enough without the gold. You always were. The Harringtons created a golden child because they couldn't face their own pain, because they needed proof they hadn't failed, because they believed their worth depended on their children's success. But Emily learned something they couldn't teach her. That worth isn't conditional. That love shouldn't require performance. That being human, flawed, ordinary, is not just acceptable. It's beautiful. She learned it the hard way, through breakdown and breakthrough, through therapy and tears, through the slow, unglamorous work of becoming herself. But she learned it, and now she lives it, imperfectly, authentically, without apology. That's not failure. That's freedom. So here's my question, and I genuinely want to hear from you. If you were the golden child, what's the one dream you never got to chase because it wasn't golden enough? And if you could start now, would you? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm truly curious. And if this story resonated, hit subscribe, leave a like, share this with someone still carrying gold that isn't theirs. Your engagement helps YouTube show this to the people who need it most. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing yourself. You're not alone in this.